Hi, this is Jenny Walterman, and this is my case study from Module 10 for EDL 856. This case study, I'll give you a summary first. It involves a principal at an unknown school in an independent new parent organization that is disbanded from the previous PTA organization. President of the new parent organization is a key person involved, and various NPO parent committees that were newly formed over the summertime. Key facts in this case involve the independent new parent organization that I will refer to as the NPO periodically, and they were previously affiliated with the National PTA. They discontinued that membership and formed a new parent organization, and they now are functioning independently. Previous discussions during elections in the previous spring included some vague complaints about parent participation and community involvement. The president of the new parent organization is defined as being a young attorney, and we don't know if they're new to the role or not. That's a question I have. And the group has already met prior to meeting with the principal and reported a change needed for the traditional programming, which in the years past has involved a back to school night, and they want more decision and policy making regarding curriculum and school and teacher performance. Some NPO parent committees were formed. They were formed prior to meeting with the principal, and they wanted to address issues that they perceive as a problem, such as discipline, teacher performance, curriculum, and total school evaluation. So committees were formed to address each of these issues. Another key person, and all of the facts are related to that, is the principal at this school, and I am assuming that role. So I don't know a lot of details about the school, so I will address that in a little bit. But the grade level and community demographics are unknown. I am assuming that it's an elementary school. But it could also maybe be a middle or secondary school based on the fact that they are wanting more information about each class individually. So I could see how, back to school nights are not that expansive at the secondary level. So it could be that, but I'm going to assume for this scenario that it's an elementary school. The principal, myself, trying to assume that role. I worked well with the PTA organization previously. I do believe that they play an important role in the school and want to encourage involvement, and invited the PTA to help with planning back to school events and the annual parent and staff picnic. I've also had them help with promoting the bond referendum for building additions, and that's been very successful in the past also. Honestly, I'm surprised by this new parent organization's proposal for greater involvement, and I'm wondering about not being informed about meetings and subcommittees that were established without my invitation or my involvement. I'm concerned that these committees will interfere with normal school operations during the day, and I am in favor of parent involvement that's appropriate. And the principal is ultimately responsible and accountable for what happens in the building. And so I feel like I really need to be the one who's making the decision on policies and not letting a parent organization make those decisions. I am going to need to respond to the NPO concerns and try to compromise with them and their goals without upsetting the educational programming or creating any liability issues regarding what parents have a right to do in involving themselves in their students' education. I don't really believe that PTA should be involved in school decision making or developing instructional or curriculum policy. So, key problems in this case summary, the independent new parent organization, it was previously affiliated with the National PTA. They discontinued their membership, and I need to know, was it handled in an appropriate manner? Was there notification and voting by all parents? What happened to the organization funds from the PTA chapter when it closed? Have they written any bylaws and met with the district to formally organize a compact between the parent organizations and the school? And why haven't there been collaborative meetings with the principal? So those are some key problems there. Regarding the president specifically of this new parent organization, I don't know if this president has any prior experience. This is the same person that was involved in the previous PTO, or is it a new person? I don't know about that. And why was there such a drastic change? What has happened? What's gone down? Why is this president presenting as so aggressive in the meeting, not allowing the principal to interject or get a word in edgewise, and just kind of steamrolling over to talk about what they want to happen with the next year? I don't know. Is it excitement over what they want to do and they're just really jazzed up about their ideas? Or is there derision and conflict? And so I'm not really sure what the tone is of the not allowing the principal to speak in that initial meeting. Why didn't the group consult with the principal and report a change needed from the traditional program and then work collaboratively on that? We don't know why. There's a lack of understanding, though, of where authority starts and stops with parent organizations in regards to teacher schedule, evaluation of teachers, contract days and hours, and evening expectations outside the contract day for staff. And so this new parent organization doesn't seem to understand some of those issues. Some of the key problems for the principal at the unknown school: the grade level and community demographics are unknown. I mentioned that. Here's the biggie. Is this a Title I school? We really need to know that because that's going to affect some legal questions that I'll mention in another page. The committees that were formed, I'm concerned that those will interfere with normal school operations from day to day if we have committees coming in trying to evaluate staff all the time. I am in favor of appropriate parental involvement. The principal is ultimately responsible, as I mentioned in the previous page, and so I need to be the one making decisions about policies and procedures. I do need to respond to the NPO concerns and compromise with their goals without upsetting the educational program or creating liability issues. I don't believe the PTA should be involved in school decisions, making or developing instructional or curricular policy. The NPO parent committees, those subcommittees that were formed, they assume more power than they actually have. They are focused on school and personnel performance more than student learning. And we need to help parents to work with their children to improve learning, which involves working with teachers, not against them. And they seem to be unaware of school procedural events that disruptions impact during the school day. So, legal and ethical issues in this case. Under the ESEA, parents, this is a quote, parents are full partners in their child's education and are included as appropriate in decision making and on advisory committees to assist in the education of their child, end quote. So, what is appropriate? How do we define that? What are the legal parameters of a PTO? And we also have a legal issue of, was the PTO school compact drafted with bylaws? Is that in place? Does that exist? Was there one for the PTA? Was there one devised for the new parent organization? So here we come with the legal considerations regarding a Title I school. The Title I considerations: was there notification? Was there informed consent? Were all families and key stakeholders invited to join? Was the information provided in diverse communications, either written or oral, in the primary language spoken in the home? This is important because funding under Section 1118A through C states that 1% of Title I funding must be allocated to a parent organization. And so, if this is a Title I school and funding was allocated to the PTA previously and then they disbanded that and started a new program, we needed to know what happened with that funding because legally that funding should have gone back to the district to be reallocated out. And so I don't know what's happening on the money side of things. And also we don't know what's happening as far as fair representation, notification, and communication, informed consent. According to the PTA website, the National PTA website, their standards, they're also published on the KSDE website. I'm in the state of Kansas. PTOs are partners in education, not policymakers. And so that quote tells me that the NPO is perhaps overstepping their bounds as far as some of their expectations of what they're wanting to change as far as policy and procedure in the district. Legally, we need to define what parents as full partners in making school decisions that affect children and families means. What does that mean? To what extent can they be full partners? Also, legal issues: principals cannot authorize, volunteer programming that conflicts with teacher negotiated contracts, contract hours and days, required evening attendance at events. So we have to look at what the principal is liable for regarding scheduled events and activities that occur in their building. And the school board, which is elected by the citizens, decide policy and procedure, not a parent organization. So those are all the legal issues. Ethical conflicts, were all the parents included? Is this the voice of a few or the voice of many? Um, Meetings that don't involve district or building leadership can create ethical conflicts, because if you only have one side meeting, you're not necessarily getting information and considering all the factors that are impacting a school, classroom, or a building. And so we really need equal representation from both the building leadership and perhaps some teachers, in addition to parents being involved. Another ethical conflict: parents' attempts to know what is really going on in the classroom, that's a quote from the scenario, makes the assumption that teachers aren't communicating. And so that's an ethical conflict of responsibility of my teachers in my building. Are they communicating with parents? Do parents know what's going on? And if they are communicating effectively, why are the parents assuming that they don't know what's going on in the classroom? So there's some ethical conflict there that I need to get to the bottom of and figure out what's the disconnect between what my teachers are doing and what the parent expectation is. I as the principal, need to be careful not to deny parents or parent organizations access to being involved in their students' education. That would be an ethical conflict if I were to deny that. And also, I need to ensure that all key stakeholders are being considered and contacted for input, and that their needs are being considered. This is not an ethical issue, but certainly I think unreasonable for this new parent organization to expect teachers to devote that much after school and evening time over multiple days with their new back to school proposal. So my case statement in one sentence, it's really long and a run-on sentence, but a newly formed parent organization has replaced the former PTA organization, along with multiple self-elected oversight committees with autonomously created goals and requirements for changes to back-to-school night, teacher evaluations, building policy, and more, without consulting the district principal or building teachers, which has surprised me, the principal, and presents potential legal conflicts with existing school board policy, teacher contract schedule, and calendar requirements, as well as ethical conflicts with the unreasonable reach and assumed authority of the parent organization. All right, so what are my missing case facts? People, people, place, grade level, all of that. We don't know the principal, what the district is, if it's rural or urban, what grade level the school is, or I also want to know the funding situation. Are we a Title I school? And do we have a legal department in our district? Of course, I mentioned that the place is unknown. What program and unknown facts are absent? I need to know, why was the prior PTA disbanded? What previous conflicts may exist between the principal and the new parent organization president, if any? What actual authority is given by the district board policy to parent organizations? What authority is given regarding education and finances by the school board? Why the new parent organization met without the principal is another unknown fact, and I need to know why they didn't want my input and created so many committees autonomously without any input from the building. I also need to know, what does reasonable parent participation in student learning mean, and how does our district interpret that? What does it mean legally according to the National PTA and ESEA? Was there a building-wide assessment for evaluating needs, considering diversity and building capacity for implementing programs? Did all of that happen when they created the new organization, or no? I need to know that information. And then, of course, the real big one: is this a Title I school? It's in all caps because that's really important to know, because we need to know what are the legal ramifications regarding appropriate notice, parent communication, and how we handle funds that are allocated by the federal government for parent organizations in Title I schools. So my priorities that I reviewed is the integrity of our school and our parent organizations also. So this and other parent organizations in the district could potentially face some integrity and perception issues if we don't handle this right. Also at potential damage is the collaborative and cooperative working relationship between the MPO and my building staff and faculty. Also, the financial impact on school funding if Title I funds were not handled appropriately by getting rid of prior PTA organization funds, if this is a Title I school. District-wide expectations of teacher performance and oversight by lay people in the community could be a biggie. We can't just have our teachers feel like their job is always being evaluated by people in the community. I think that they need to feel like they're accountable to the community for sure, and that they need to do their job well. But I think as far as evaluative affecting their job performance and their job rating with the district, they need to feel like there's a level of trust there with the district and with me as their building leader to protect their integrity and their standing in the community. And that if any kind of corrective action or constructive criticism comes, it needs to come from a safe place and not delivered by committee through a parent organization. Um, Also, potential damage is district and community-wide expectations of the ability to manipulate district scheduling and just change the calendar requirements when they want. That would create some major problems for the district if things were able to be changed by the community, which they're not. And then student activities and events turn into oversight evaluations instead of enriching activities and opportunities to make learning fun. So the back to school night with the ice cream and the meeting the teacher and seeing their classroom for the first time is an exciting back to school. It gets kids excited about that. And if we turn that into, a 5 day long every night event for teachers and parents, I think it's going to belabor the point and not make it a fun educational experience for students. Um, Key stakeholders, the principal, who's unnamed, myself, and then the building personnel and students, district school board, diverse populations in the community are key stakeholders, the new parent organization officers and all the committee members. All of the families of the school and the surrounding community are key stakeholders. And then some questions to ask or answer. Could this conflict be damaging to the community? Yes, I think it could. It could impact confidence in the school performance based on these new parent organization demands and their reaction to existing programs. The way that they're behaving could create a lack of confidence in our school if people feel like the community is having to step in to change things because things are going so wrong. So the optics of that are concerning. And then equitable education for students and ensuring all parents have access to information and voicing their concerns to students is important, and we need to have that. But again, if the community feels like there's not equitable education for all students here, that can impact our school enrollment. It can impact our community residency size, all of those types of things. So, potential solutions. There's 3 options here. Option 1, do nothing. Just let it play out and let the conflict between the MPO and teachers move forward, see what happens. Option 2, propose collaborative changes. Provide some directive information from the school board on policies and standard KSDE and PTA national policy guidelines. Make sure they know what cannot be changed, and then offer to help the officers and community members to regroup and revise and develop goals for achieving success and advocating for student learning without compromising district building policies that are already in place and things that I cannot change and cannot allow the parents organization to change and be a part of a compromise while also advocating for faculty contracts. Option 3 would be to just shut it down and inform the MPO of their lack of authority over teacher evaluation, that they can't change building district policy, and I can't even change the district calendar or building activity schedules. I could tell them that I don't really trust that they've handled this appropriately in regards to contacting all populations, and that they have not tried to communicate appropriately based on the fact that they didn't even communicate with me, and that there are some legal questions hovering in the air about their finances and what they did with previous funds, and that they can't make decisions. They can't just create committees and make decisions without a quorum of representatives from the community present. So I would just say, no, you have no authority here. You're not doing anything. just shut it down. So, pros and cons for these three options. For them, do nothing. The pros, there aren't really any. I think it would just create more problems. The cons is that I could lose faith from my faculty and staff and the community and also the school board if I don't do anything. I'm just passing the buck down the road because the conflict would just increase and then somebody else would have to step in, probably the school board, and deal with it. And it would just delay providing assistance and doing what's best for students, and it would just make me look like the weakest link because I didn't handle it at all. The pros and cons for option 2, which is the proposing collaborative change. The pros would be that I provide an opportunity to educate the MPO on their role and responsibilities within the district in a non-confrontational manner, provides an immediate de-escalation, potentially, of conflict with MPO and principal teachers by proposing a collaborative change to their action plan. Con to that is that MPO may be unwilling to compromise or be flexible in their plan and believe they have the right to interfere in building procedures and policy at this level. Option 3 was shutting it down. The pros: this provides swift and authoritative action to preserve teacher contract requirements and a sense of security about their jobs and the evaluation process. It builds autonomy between me and the teachers, but then the con to that is it's going to create conflict with MPO and between myself and the MPO and between teachers and parents. And it could also open up the district for a lawsuit as we are required to provide access to parents for involvement in their student learning. So my option that I thought was the best, it says option 3 there. That's a mistake. It should say option 2, the collaboration option. So I think that this is the best option for both students and teachers. I think I would be able to provide a real and tangible information to the MPO about the required legalities of parent participation in school activities, while also telling them that every parent needs to be contacted and we need to ensure that communication was attempted, and that's very important. I think that I can also carefully guide the calendar and schedule expectations of the committee, guide that conversation to consider what's already in place for the coming year and what can be modified in the future, given time to collaborate with teachers and parents in a more engaging environment. So saying the calendar's really already set for this year and back to school night is in a couple weeks, so we can't really change anything at this point. We also can't just throw this expectation on teachers at the last minute, but let's evaluate what needs to be changed in the future and take some time to really do that in a collaborative manner so that everybody feels good about it. So in implementing the decision, before I investigate or anything like that, I'm going to ask a couple of teachers and one building staff member that's not a teacher, maybe a para or an administrative assistant or something like that, to join this collaborative committee so that they can be involved and be a voice for representing our building that's not coming from me, the administrator, so that there's more voices speaking to the building needs and perspective more than just myself. So then I'm going to speak to a legal advisor first. If the district has a lawyer on staff, which probably they do, I'm going to ask them what our responsibilities are and what the legal ramifications are of the MPO requesting more access, like what can and can't we concede, and what kind of authority can I give or not give. And I don't want to give any authority that's not appropriate. I don't want to give more power. I have the hiccups, I'm so sorry. I don't want to give more power than what's appropriate to my parent organization and then have to retract that later. I want to make sure I walk into the meeting knowing exactly how to handle it. The next thing I'm going to do is evaluate. I'm going to have some conversations. I'm going to ask what aspects of the existing building schedule and calendar events are not meeting the needs of students and families in the community. So we're going to discuss that with the NPO and have conversations and ask which ones are and which ones are not being successful. We need to determine that. And then we need to utilize recommended assessment surveys from KSDE and MPTA for best practices in gathering information. So both those websites and on the KSDE website, there are a lot of recommended programs that recommended assessments that help gather information. And so I'm going to speak to that more on this third step. So we're going to evaluate and assess what programs, curriculum, and staffing deficits are concerns of the MPO officers and members. We're going to utilize industry recommended assessment surveys from KSDE and MPTA for best practices in gathering information. We're going to consider and address those concerns directly without allowing policy or curriculum changes that are only allowed at the district level. So we're going to send out information. We're going to get these assessments and get feedback and data, and then we're going to look at that and address what needs to be addressed, but not going to include in that policy change, curriculum change, because those aren't really decisions that we're letting the MPO decide on at this time. Okay. And then we're going to develop and implement a school parent involvement policy for the district. And I think this is really going to help clarify the responsibilities of each party in regard to the operation of school administration and ensuring the success of student learning and development. We're going to require a building NPO compact agreement that is drafted and agreed upon and implemented by both parties. I'm also going to ask the school board members to draft a parent organization financial plan if one does not exist. If one does exist, we need to remind the MPO about this financial agreement, and if not, we really need to get one drafted. And then fifth, I'm going to ask for regularly scheduled and posted collaborative meetings that are in a constructive environment that includes systemic goals for the MPO, along with comprehensive curriculum resource guide to help parents understand what their students are learning. So we'll have regular meetings that are collaborative that we discuss ahead of time that involve the committee members and members of the building, and then invite all of the key stakeholders, all of our parents, and we're communicating to them and inviting them in multiple communication formats so that we can reach as many parents as possible. And then at these meetings, we're going to discuss the curriculum that's being used with students and tips and tricks to help parents understand what their students are learning, what their curriculum is doing. And then definitely going to invite teachers to be a part of that discussion, but we're not going to require it because we can't require them to be part of the school PTO. This is my reflection. I'll leave it on the screen for a minute. You can hit pause and read at your own pace. And these are my citations. Thanks for watching.